introduce our speaker, and in his own right, in the space in which we are, we must all do our best. The name of our speaker, Mr. Hloniphizwe. Yabona uhloniphizwe. Yeah. Mtolo. Sharman, chairman of the board of Shell companies. I grew up in that company, and I'm very, very, very grateful that I had an opportunity to, as a youngster, to be schooled in Shell. Chairman of the board of Shell of companies. This includes Shell South Africa Holdings, Shell South Africa Energy, and Shell Downstream South Africa. And he chairs all these companies inside the organization and is a member of the board. On top of that, he's a true retailer. You know, I really like one of the key messages that we send here at ULP is that focus, particularly because in your career, as young, black, talented people, you will be, and I know when I grew up, most of my friends, now and again, started a job here, 12 months later there's another one because there's the highest bidder, and the next 18 months is in another job, and by the time you reach your 40s, you've been in 10 jobs, and you're looking for a job, and you come for CV to us here, and we look at your CV and you say, this is a checkered career here. And you didn't know one thing, you didn't focus. So he's been a retailer throughout his whole life for the last 27 years, but he started at a technical background in the laboratory, and he decided, no, I'm not going to be playing with the laboratory stuff, and I know that because I came up in that background also, and he decided to focus on retail. And if he's long, but I've summarized it, but he's done a lot of retail work. He studied at Wits, doing a management program. He also studied in the University of Notre Dame in the US. And so he's prepared himself with solid experience as well as academic qualification. And that's what we're promoting here at ULP. So without any further ado, let's welcome Mr. Mtolo to come up front here. Thank you, sir.
Sanbonan. When I was leaving the office this afternoon, as I was leaving, my assistant says to me, hey, ungakhohlwa iRamaphosa yakho. And she gave me my iPad. I think it is appropriate to thank you, Maurice, for the invitation. It is an honor, a privilege, and a humbling experience to be here today, this evening, especially when the invitation comes from you, because some of us, and a lot of us, we really and truly look up to you as someone that, not as a joke, but for real, when you say, when we grow up, I want to be like that. And thank you, sir. So when Maurice invited me, he said to me, just share your experience in terms of how you've come up to be where you are today and what it's been like. So it was a difficult one because from where I sit and how I understand things is that for me it's just been a journey, and I haven't looked at it as anything remarkable. It's just been how things have sort of evolved and how things have happened. So for him to say, look, share it, maybe one or two people might just see it as something that they can look up to. It was humbling, as I said. So how I sort of thought I'm going to do this is that I'll probably just share who I am, where do I come from, and maybe a little bit about what I've done career-wise, and then maybe share one or two reflections that I've drawn from this journey. So from who I am is maybe some of the places that I'm going to be mentioning, they might not sound familiar because I'm not from this part of the world. I'm more from the province with a name and a surname, KwaZulu-Natal. My mother worked in a place called Cowie's Hill, which is next to Westville. He worked there for a family as a domestic worker. And she met my father, who worked in Pinetown as a laborer in a hardware store. So for whatever reason, they liked each other. My mother was a divorcee, and my dad was very married with 2 wives. And my mother then joined the club and became the 3rd wife. Yeah. So there was a bit of an age thing as well between my mama and my father because I think probably about 20 years or so. So, I mean, I would think then my dad was a bit of a chicken murder type of thing because, yeah. But so they met, and I was the product of that courtship. As I said, my mother was the 3rd wife. My father came from a place called Ekopo, which is about, say, 2 hours from Durban, where the family has a small place there that my dad bought in 1954. And my father lived in Pinetown at his workplace. So my mother lived also at her workplace. And then when I came around, my dad then said to my mother, let's find you a room where you can stay and raise the baby. So we had a 1-room home in Claremont where it was our home, and we lived there from Monday to Friday. Saturday and Sunday, my mother and I would go and visit my father at his work and spend the weekend there. Those days were very important for me, the Saturday and Sunday, because I got to spend time with the 2 of them. But also it was exciting for me because I got to go to the toilet there because it was a flushing toilet. And in Claremont where we lived, we had the bucket system. And I always looked forward to going to my dad's work, and I can go and use this magic toilet because it was the first time I had seen it. I have very, very fond memories of this, of my weekends, because I can still picture the single bed that the 3 of us shared. It had this floral bedspread that used to cover it, and I think when it started its life, this bedspread must have been red. But by the time I came around and saw it, it was pinkish. It had had its time. The interesting thing about this is that I always find it fascinating. I still haven't figured it out how it happened like this, because whenever we went to bed, I used to go and be between my mother and father. But in the morning, I was always on a small mat next to the bed. And I could never understand how did this happen, but that's how it was. So, yeah, that was that. I grew, and one thing that I can share, which for me was an experience, is that this was, I can never remember my mother saying to me, up till she died last year, I can never remember my mother saying to me, I love you. Not once. But I don't think there's any love that could surpass that. I grew up in an environment that was extremely loving. At that time, I mean, as a young person, right up to probably I got to high school, I never even realized that we were as poor as anybody can be because of how loving and how warm these 2 individuals were. It is important also to point out that I had siblings. So I had 5 brothers that were older than me, obviously, and 2 sisters. So altogether, there was 8 of us. And my siblings were much older than me. My siblings, some of them had children that were older than me by the time I was born. So, yeah. But that's how it was. So we grew up in this, I grew up in this environment then of living with my parents. So my wife my mother was the city wife. And then I had the other two mothers who were on the farm. My dad had never seen the inside of a classroom, you know, what it looked like. My mother was the one that was educated a lot more than my father was. She went right up to standard 1. So I think the importance of what I'm trying to share with you is just to try and begin to give you an idea in terms of who did I become and how did I become the person that I became or the person that I am today. Because I grew up in this environment. My mother got me when she was 41. She was really looking forward to having me. So when I came around, I mean, she was over the moon. So I was a protected somebody. I think the last time I really could say that I was comfortable in bathing myself was when I went to boarding school at 12 years. My mother would wash me right through, you know, and that's how protective the environment was. I was really and truly a mama's boy. My friends say, why you never even played sport? Because I had no time for sport. I only had time to be with my mother and my father, and that was me. So in 1976, I was doing standard 1, I think. So yeah, I was doing standard 1. My father was asked by his employers to retire. You know, I won't say that he retired. He was asked to retire because he was not so young anymore. So it meant that he had to leave Pinetown and go back to the farm. So what had happened over this time is that we sort of commuted during holidays. We'd go to the farm and join the rest of the family, and then when it's not, and then we'll come back. So when my father retired in 1976, the two of them had the conversation, which I am grateful that my father had this conversation with my mother. So my father said to my mother, I don't want you to come with me. I want you to stay behind. I don't want you to go with me to the farm. I want you to stay here. Obviously, my mother would be a bit uncomfortable with this conversation, say, what's wrong? You know, have I done anything wrong? And my dad said to her is that, if you come with me, this little one is not going to be able to go to school. Because out of all my siblings, my siblings that are in front, the one that went to school went to as far as standard 2. So my dad said, if we go and I take you with me and the boy, he's also probably going to go just up to standard 2. And for that reason, I don't want you to come with me. Stay here. My mother was uncomfortable with this conversation because it meant, how are we going to live? You know. So what she was doing at that time is that she continued to work at this family. However, when I started school, she decided to stop working. So that she could give me a wash in the morning so that I can go to school, because I didn't know how to do it. I mean, I remember we used to have this plastic basin that we used to wash in the morning. So my biggest struggle when I would bath is that I would put one hand to balance and I would wash my face. And then my mother would say, use both hands. And immediately when I tried to use both hands and lift my other hand, I would fall face flat into the water, and it's done. And Mama said, no, you can't do this. Let me rather do it for you. So then she stopped working. So when my dad left to go back home, we had no income, you know. But she then decided that she will sell anything and everything that she can lay her hands off so that we can live. Because remember, this was a laborer that was retiring, so there's no retirement. In those days, SASSA didn't exist. You know, it was when you fend for yourself somehow. So my mother sold anything and everything, and that's how we lived. And then I also joined in the queue and started selling stuff. So my specialty was I used to sell chicken heads and chicken feet. My mother would cook them, and then I'll go sell them. And I had a very, very good art to this, because when I'm done, or just before I was done, so I would leave one chicken head and one foot, and I'd take this home. And I'll say to my mother, sure, it was really a hard day. I've tried my best, but these two I couldn't. Yeah. And my mother said, oh, it's okay, you can have them. So, so it was hard. It was tough those days. I mean, it was really, really tough as soon as my dad was out, because sometimes we'd go to bed without any food. And what my father then did, he went home and started sort of some form of farming as much as he can, and then he would send beans to us to sell, to keep this selling thing going, so that I could go to school. So trying to move on before I take too much time on this is that the second thing that happened, so the first thing is obviously my father deciding that he's not going to take us with him to the farm. And then my mother also had a big decision when I reached standard 5. She then decided, look, I want you to go to boarding school. I don't know where she thought the money was going to come from, but she said, I want you to go to boarding school. So I said, but why would you want me to go to boarding school? And my thinking was that if you don't go to boarding school, you're going to carry on living like this, where there's days when you go to bed without food. In boarding school, you will eat every day. So I'm guaranteed that you will eat every day in boarding school. I'd rather you having to go to boarding school. So I went to boarding school. I went to a school called Polela. Went there 12, probably the best years of my life, the 5 years that I spent there. The interesting thing about that is that, I was now amongst children that came from families that are far financially superior than my family was. But I had to fit in, I had to fit in, and play as if I understand what's going on and be with them. And there's something that used to fascinate me, because the food was amazing. This is what I came here for in the first place. The food was amazing, but everybody would complain about food. I remember on Tuesdays, we used to have this gravy with mealy rice, but we had it was called Memphis. It was made from dried leaves. I think only God knows what leaves these were, because it was dried leaves, and everybody hated it, and I loved it, and I would say, sure, Memphis today, and I'm smiling, said, it's all good, it's Memphis, but So Polela gave me a couple of things. Firstly, I could have food every day, but I was an extremely introverted someone. But this was the first time that I could be on my own away from my mother, and I could interact with other children and as equals. And I think that's where I started coming out. That's where I could now stand and talk to you. I mean, if I hadn't gone to Polela, I doubt that I would be able to do this. Because as I said, I was an extremely introverted someone. Yeah, so the one thing about how much I've told you so far was that that is important to share, is that when I was in class, right from when I started school, there's one thing that I wanted to do, is that I would not want anybody to beat me on any subject. So I made sure that every day the top marks were mine. The top student in the class was me, and that's what drove me. I went to Polela, I carried on the same thing, and that's partly why also I was never into sport, because I'm one of those kids that when two teams are being put together in soccer, they say, you come, and then when I'm left alone, they say, who wants him? He can go on any side. Because my contribution was negligible, So I decided that I'm going to stop playing sport, because I can't be the best. I'm not going to do it. I'll rather stick to my my classwork. Yeah. So Polela, schoolwork, great. Food, great. The two things were working well. First year was fine. Second year, my mother's smart plan fell apart because, remember, it was on a Saturday. I don't remember the date, but it was on a Saturday in August. The boarding master came and said, look, you haven't paid for a couple of months now, so this is it. You got to go home. So I asked a couple of my friends to put together some money for me to go home. So I went home, got home, threw myself on my bed, on our bed, and said to Mama, that's it. I'm going to try and find work. I was 13. I'm going to try to find work for the rest of the year. And then next year, I'll find a school around here so that I can continue. My mother didn't say a word. She was just quiet. Eventually, I went to bed. She didn't. Woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. She's still sitting in the same position that she was when I went to bed. Just thinking. Whole day on Sunday, just thinking. Night on Sunday, she just sat and just thinking. Monday morning, my mother said, look, come, let's go. Where are we going? No, you'll see. So we went, and we went and got into a taxi, bus, whatever we got into. We went to Pinetown. Went into this big building, still thinking, what's this woman doing now? So we went in. She wanted to find out where the owner of the business, how to find him. They said, but who are you? And she said who she was, and nobody was interested in showing her where the owner of the building and the business was. Eventually she said, look, my husband is Mtolo. I want to see the owner of this business. So when that message got to the owner said, of the business said, no, send her in. So I discovered later that that was my father's old employer. So my mother said, look, I'm Zake's wife, and this is Zake's son. He's just been expelled at school because we can't afford the fees. But, he really liked school. And this guy, his name was Mr. Raff, took out his checkbook, says, how much is it? We told him the amount. He wrote a check, gave me the check, says, go back to school. And from now on, every December, you come here. I've got a car, 4 levels of car parking. You will work there directing cars where they should go. And when the holidays are finished, come and take your check and take it back to school. So that is how I then finished Lela. That is how I finished. By the way, you see car guards today, it's fashionable. I'm the original car guard. So as time went on, so you start thinking now, what do I want to do when I finish school? So my dream, I wanted to be a civil engineer. That's what I wanted to be, and that's what I was working towards. My mathematics was amazing. My physical science was amazing. So I said, I can do this thing. I'll be an electrical engineer. Applied. I got accepted at Wits University. And then the matter of financing, I applied for a bursary. I got a bursary from a company called Vandenberg and Jurgens. So it was all good. But then age was ticking on with my mother. When it was time to go at the beginning of the year, firstly, there was no money for me to go from KZN to come to Wits University. And I looked at my mother, I said, this is not good. This woman has really broken her back to bring me this far. If I leave and go to Wits University, it will be unfair. So I need to look for something around, and most probably go and work so that I can get this woman to give this woman a rest, and then I can look after her. So that was the thinking at the time. But then I saw an advert with a place called the Natal Institute of Immunology. They were looking for people that wanted to do medical laboratory technology. I said, this is it. I'll do this. And the nice thing about it is that it came with a stipend. And the stipend at that time, it was 398 rands a month. So it was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. So I did this, and again, same attitude, same thing that in class, I've got to be the top guy. And I was, I didn't just say it, I delivered. So did my med tech, finished, and then I asked my mother to retire, obviously, to look after her. I looked after her because I lived with her, and then at the end of the month, I also sent 50 rands to my father for his own part, and he was very proud. I believe the first day, the envelope, I don't know, Maurice, you'll remember, money those days used to send it in a white envelope, which was for money. So my dad, the first time I sent this money, he was with his friends, and he took out the envelope, which had my name in the front. So he told his friends that, look, my son has sent me money. So it was 50 rands in the envelope, but my dad put another 50 rands and said, send me 100 rands. Yeah, so even with my dad's friends, I was like, this is a good boy, 100 rands to his father. Yeah, so, so that was my time at getting to that medtech. But what led me to change this is that I worked in this laboratory. My first laboratory that I worked in was at King Edward Hospital, which was it's a very big hospital. And when I worked there, my parents loved the laboratory coats, the white laboratory coats that I brought back from work. They thought, sure, the boy has done so well. It comes with this. In the meantime at work, I'd look at my colleagues around me, and one thing that happened with these guys is that they were very, very proud of what they were doing, and how far they've got there. So one would say, I've been here for 25 years. One would say, I've been here for 31 years. I'm thinking, 31 years, I'm going to do this for 31 years. I said, no, I can't. I said, I don't see myself doing this. I enjoyed it at the time, but I'm thinking, not next year, not the year after. No, I'm not going to do it. So I started thinking, what's next, As I was thinking what's next, again, I saw an advertisement, retail management development program. It was advertised by Edgar's at the time, which was, like the retail company at the time. So I applied, got in, exciting. Program was for 2 years where I was going to do this. But in the first month, I got my first promotion. And thereafter, they just came. I mean, I was at Edgar's for 6 years, and in the 6 years, I'd done 6 jobs. Very exciting, growing, and really got to understand what retail is about, and I really got to love retail. So here's I as a medical technologist doing retail work, and I really and truly loved it, So that's how I became a retailer. So did that. And as I said, is that whenever I do work in class, I made sure that I was the best in class. When I started working, I'd also make sure that I'm the best in terms of how, that was my attitude. My attitude is that I look around me and say, I want to be the best at this. So the one thing that I want to also share is that in my career, I've never said my next job is going to be that. I focused on the job of today and made sure that this job that I have today, I'll do it to the best of my ability. This job will buy me the next job. And that has always been my attitude. Even today, I don't know what I'm going to do next after this. But all I'm doing is that I'm giving this job all of me. And then the next job will come to me. I won't look for it. It will come to me because of what I've done today. So, while working hard at Edgar's, at the time, I remember I had a very, very nice job in Newcastle. I was the store manager there. those days we used to, celebrate this story of being the first this and the first that, as the first dark one to manage that store. So it was exciting for me. I must tell you a story. Interestingly, I remember the one time my mother came to visit me when I was running this store. And in Edgar's those days, we used to have cosmetic counters in the front section of the store. And the ladies that worked there was always, Clarence, and it was always white ladies that, that looked the part. So my mother came to visit me, so she got off the taxi in Newcastle in town, came into the store and said, who she was, and then she was taken to my office. And so as she was sitting in my office, the people came to, to greet. And my mother was sitting there, and these ladies come, hello, Mama. And my mother said, oh, hello, Mrs. And I would shout, hey! As soon as I said, don't say Mrs. She's not Mrs. She works for me. So I did this. So the reason why I left Edgar's at the time is that I left Edgar's because I was overlooked for a job that I knew was mine, a job of a regional manager. It was given to a guy called Hedley Angel. I knew, and everybody knew that I was a better person than Hedley Angel. So I said, I'm not going to fight this. I'm not going to argue about it. I'll just leave. So I left. These days I would say to people, don't do it because I've got hindsight, I can look back. But those days, said this, they can't do this to me. I left Edgar's and went and joined a company that doesn't exist anymore, a company called Smart Center. Big mistake, because effectively it was like doing a job that I could have done 10 years earlier. But I did it in any case because I got the title that I wanted and did this job, and it moved me away from Edgar's. Did this for exactly 11 months. I was regional manager in the Free State, didn't speak Afrikaans, didn't speak isiSotho. So I don't know what I was doing there. I said I needed to be out. And at that time, fortunately, I got a call from BP. And I joined BP in the convenience space because that's what they were doing. Again, I was with BP for about 6 years. In that 6 years, I had 4 very nice jobs. But the important thing about those jobs is that those 4 jobs is that those jobs are serving me today in my job today, because the experience and the insights that I got there have made me to be able to do this job the best way that I can do. I understand retail, I understand what a business manager, so the people that are in my teams, they can't really, dance around me, and because I know this, I know how it's supposed to be done. I've done it, and I've grown in it. So I was there. Again, same story. I made sure that I do it the best way that I can. And out of the blue, I got a call from Levi Strauss. They said, look, we're looking for a retail regional manager. I joined them. Extremely exciting time. That's one company where I started understanding what values are, because that's what we spoke about. We spoke about you don't employ children to come and do any job. So in the factories that we have throughout the world, at that time it was fashionable for companies in the East to employ children. Child labor was strife, but Levi Strauss was a value-based organization. And a lot of what they were speaking about resonated with me. So I did a lot of growing from and understanding what value-based leadership is all about. And really, it was a time when I grew in my leadership journey. So what I'm not talking about at the moment is that while doing all of these things, my focus was make sure that I work hard, but also make sure that if there's any developmental programs that the company offered, I'd be the first one to jump in. So I made sure that I grow and really learn and really enhance my leadership. So and my focus has been on leadership. And my focus has been on leadership because that's the space that for whatever reason, I thought worked for me. I thought when I am given the role of leading people, I tended to do it okay. I found that people responded to what I was about. I found that people responded and we worked well as teams. So I was at Levi Strauss for about 4 years or so. And then again, out of the blue, unexpectedly, got a call from A.D. Spitz to come and head up their stores. So I went there. This was an operation of 28 family-owned business at the time. I joined them. And one of the drivers that I had at the time was around just the general standards that a company, that a store should have. I was very focused on that. I was very focused to uplift the standards. I was very focused on making sure that the teams and the people that worked for me understand that you have to deliver the best standard, the best customer service. I used to make my teams shine the stockroom floors, and the guys would say, but nobody sees them. I said, it's not about who sees them. It's about what we stand for. Don't focus all the time on what people see you doing. The most important things is the things that you do when nobody's watching. And that's what drove us. In the time I was at A.D. Spitz for 8 years. And because of this focus on standards, because of this focus on customers, because of this focus on the people that I led, to make sure that I look after them, I nurture them, and I feel as part of the team. Because of that, for 6 of the 8 years, A.D. Spitz was voted the best footwear company in the country. And the results were absolutely phenomenal. We grew that company from 28 stores when I joined. By the time I left 8 years later, we had over 100 stores. At the same time, we had started a different chain that we started just as 3 members of the leadership team when we sat around and said, what else can we do to grow this sport? And we started a clothing chain, So really exciting times and really humbling to be going through those experiences. And through all these experiences, my one thing that I focus on is that, can I be the best that I can be? Can my team members be the best that they could be? Can I support them the best way that I can? To always be available, to always understand that it's just a title that I've been given by the bosses. But at the end of the day, we all doing the same thing. We all are here to serve customers. We all wanting the best for the company. And that's what we drove. So I did that job. Again, trying to be the best that I can be, trying to really deliver on great results that the company wanted. And still today, I don't understand how I got the call. It was a woman called, I think her name was, her surname was Van Pluyen from the Netherlands. She called me and said, I've got this job. And I said, I'm not in the market, I'm not looking. I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I'm very happy with that I am. I said, no, but this job, just think about it. I said, I'm not interested. As it goes, these conversations happen, and then eventually I said, I'll listen. Eventually, I got to know that this was Shell. Said I'd left that industry. I really didn't want to go back there. So the reason why I've shared who I am, where do I come from with you, I'm hoping that I can share with you that there's hope for a lot of us. That comes from an extremely humble background. I had the opportunities by doing the things the way that I've done them to get here. So if I can do it, so many people can also do it. It is also for me to say to you, it's not only the people that have gone to private schools that will get to do these roles that we are fortunate to have today. But anybody, if you are focused and say, you want to do it, you can do it. One of the things that I also just want to share that that drove me, and I shared this with someone about a year ago at Shell, is that I've never, in my almost 30 years of working, have never asked for a promotion. I've never, ever asked for an increase. Whatever I get given as a salary, I take it. Because for me, whatever I've been able to be given as a salary and the perks and the bonuses, it was so much better than where I come from. You know, so if it's so much better than where I come from, why would I be fighting for so much more? You know, I struggle sometimes with what I call, and forgive me when I say this, I struggle sometimes when I see the greed that we've developed as a people. You know, you've got the opportunity. A lot of people don't have jobs. A lot of people don't have the luxury of doing the leadership positions that we have. But we still say, can I have another million? You already got $1 million or 2 or 3, but you still want another million. Yet somebody else somewhere is getting by with 10,000 rands. But this thing of saying that I deserve more, I've been fortunate that I'm not wired like that. And it comes from, and the reason why I shared who I am from the background, that informed that the little that I have will get me by. And on top of that, I just have to work as hard as I can to get the next increase, to get the next job, to get better. So the better is not going to come from me asking for better. The better is going to come from me by doing the best that I can today. Then the better will come. So yeah, I'm at Shell. I work with wonderful people. I see 1 or 2 of them here. Yeah, it's an exciting journey for me. I never thought, you know, I said to someone the other day is that I think I'm my parents' wildest dream, because I don't think my father would have thought that I would get here. So maybe if I go towards the end of this, I'll just share what I've looked at and I think has worked for me. So I've always reflected and say, how you lead is determined by how you show up. I have grown and enjoyed myself under leaders who are gentle. I've grown a lot under leaders who took an interest in me. So I've tried to take an interest in people that I work with, because I know what it feels like. So think about it for yourself, is that the things that you want from a leader, how do you become that? Why do you want your leader to show up in a particular way, but then when you become a leader, you show in a different way? So the things that you are looking for in a leader, demonstrate them with the people that you lead. Because that, at the end of the day, is what will make people comfortable you with as their leader. So for me, that's been important. I've worked for some amazing leaders. I've worked for people that have really nurtured me, that looked at me as a human being. I remember when I was at Edgar's, I used to work for this guy called Kevin Marsh. He used to irritate the living daylights out of me, because how that environment works is that if the big boss is coming, you know, we'd all be on our knees with a steel wool, making sure that we shine every corner. Because when he comes, you know, he wants the floors shining like that. So when Kevin Marsh came for a store visit, which was like once probably every 4 months or once every 6 months, you know, we'd have done that the night before. The floor would be shining. I would know my numbers like no one's business in my head, and I'll know everything about my business, and I'll be ready. And then Kevin Marsh will come in my office, and then he'll tell me about the house that he's just bought. He'll talk to me about the house that he's just bought, and then eventually I got really fed up with him, and I said to him, look, Kevin, you know, when you come here, it's very stressful. So the time that you waste telling me about the houses that you've bought and this and this. I mean, it's unfair on me because, I'm freaking out here thinking, what are you going to find that I've done wrong in this store? And then Kevin said to me, listen to it. When I talk to you about the houses I've bought, is because I want you to think about these things. It is not only sufficient for me to look at how much you understand the business and how much you know it and how you are delivering, but I'm also interested in terms of who you become in your personal space. You understand how the financials work, and you understand how it's done. So I stopped and really took this serious. I said, so this guy looks at me holistically. I also worked for another guy, Robert Lant, that I worked for. Amazing guy. He taught me how to drink wine. I drink wine now. So, I mean, but importantly, it's someone that really cared. I mean, and took an interest. And when we spoke about my children, by the way, I've got 6 of them. When we spoke about my children, he asked their names, and when he spoke about them again, he would refer to them by name, because that's how much interested he was in me. And I've found that working for leaders like that, for me, it gives me the opportunity to grow. It allows me to know that this guy's got my back. Even if I do something wrong, I can go to him and say, listen here, dude, I've stuffed up here. How do we fix it? Because he cares, because he looks at me as a human being. He wants me to succeed. So that's the other reflection that I've had, that work for or become the leader that you want. Be the person that, show what talks to you, and don't just say it. Show up and be that. The second reflection, I've spoken about it quite a bit, but I just want to put it out there, is that the second reflection that I have, that I want to share, is that hard work pays. I saw this with my parents. They were able to, my father, he was an extreme hard worker. I mean, I remember the one morning in particular, because he used to work out. My father had a big voice, and when he shouts our names as boys, we would be flying. We'd have our shorts in our hands, and we dress as we go along, because my dad said, and he only said, Hloniphizwe, what time is this? And you've got to be out. And we'd be going to work. So I remember this one day, for whatever reason, I don't know whether his watch had played up or whatever, but we were out in the fields plowing at 2 o'clock in the morning. But that's who he was. He was an extreme hard worker. Sometimes, I mean, my current roles, I've got 3 roles at work, and sometimes my colleagues ask me, but how do you do it? But for me, it's what I know. That's how I grew up. Hard work, is important. Hard work pays. So for me, I just want to share with you that hard work really pays. Don't expect that you will progress by just asking. Do it. Work hard, and the rewards will come. The rewards will come to you. Don't go looking for the rewards. The rewards will look for you. The other thing that I just want to share with you that I've seen is that when we were growing up, we used to look at people that are extroverts, extroverted, and people that are out there, and that's the view of a leader that we had. The people that speak loud and are energetic, and we thought that's how a leader should be. But for me, it's not like that, because I'm not that. I'm not extroverted. So I respond better to humility. I respond better to people that look at me as a human being and say, we are in this together. Let's face the same direction. Let's move. If you can't do this, this is how it's done. If you can't do this, ask me. I'll show you. So humility for me goes a long way in terms of leading people, in terms of understanding what your people need, how to support them, and how to make sure that you give them the opportunity to grow. So that's the third thing. The one big one for me, and I hope, because this is how I look at things, is, and I hope what I think of and what I see in my head, I hope it is true. One big one for me is authenticity. Be genuine. Be yourself. Don't put it on. Because if you put it on, people will see through you. You can't put it on all the time. You can't fake it all the time. You can fake it for most of the time, but in difficult times, people will see through you. So the one thing that will really and truly save you is yourself. Be you. Lead people by being yourself. And I've tried. Maybe sometimes I don't feel, but I tried to be myself. I've tried to be genuine. I've tried to be straight. I've tried to be simple. The people that I work with, they will tell you that even when I speak to my teams, when I speak within the organization, because I never went to private school, I'm a product of Bantu education, I speak with the simple language that I hope people can understand. I don't try and put it on to sound fancy. I don't try and put it on to sound smart. You know, I speak it the way that I see it, the way that I understand it, because I'm hoping by doing that, the people that I work with can understand me better. I ask questions. The things that I don't know, I try and ask around from the people that know. I also surround myself with people that know. I surround myself with people that are a lot smarter than I am, and people that are experts in the areas that are important. It is not going to come from me. It's going to come from the smarter people that are around me. And then by that, we will deliver. And I enjoy the glory with them as we succeed. So humility is a big one for me. So yeah, that's my story. That's all that I thought I would share. There's no frills. I've been really been fortunate to be able to go through the journey that I've gone through, and I've really been fortunate to have the leaders that I've worked for who have held me by the hand and showed me how it's done. And I'm really fortunate to be here. And I look forward to the next, I don't know however long that I still have to work. And lastly, because Maurice has already said to the woman that in her house I live, thank you for the support, and thank you for the guidance, and thank you for keeping me honest and making sure that I know that I have to come home every night and be who I am. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here. Yeah. So maybe I'll start with the third question. When you don't get recognition. I think when you don't get recognition, my reflection is that, for instance, if I look back to my what I was not happy about at Edgar's, is that that particular one, you know, I had lost it. I should have asked myself, or the advisors asked myself, how do I make sure that I show up differently so that I get the recognition that I thought I deserved? Because remember, when you are playing and people are watching, you play in a way that you think this is the best way that will get recognition. But if people don't recognize that, you've got to sort of look back. Don't start with blaming other people. Start here. What can I do differently that will make me get the recognition? What do the people that are looking, what is it that they are looking for? And make sure that the things that they are looking for, you focus on them and you amplify them and you make sure that they get what they're looking for. Because remember, the game is not measured by you. It's measured by the people that are looking at you. So how do I make sure that what I do resonates with what they are looking for? Okay. And then maybe go to the second question. Who do you go to when the chips are down? I think as a person, as a human being, it is good that you surround yourself with people that you can trust. You surround yourself with people that you know that whatever it is that you say to them, they will be honest with you in giving you feedback, but also they will play the role of making sure that they don't push you down even further. They also don't look at you and see that because you are down today, it's a weakness. You can be open and honest with them. So surround yourself with those people. So I try to have people like that. I try to have people that I can go to. But also at home, I've got a friend that I talk to about anything and everything. And when I do get home, I do share and say, this is what's happened. And sometimes she just listens and says nothing. But that listening for me is very helpful because I get to, to let it out. It's an outlet. It's an opportunity for me just to vent. And then she listens and reflects on it. If she's got views on it, she gives me her views. But also from colleagues and friends, I've got people that I look to and say, this is what I faced. How do you think I could have handled this? But a lot of it also has to be in here. You've got to be able also to self-motivate. You've got to be able also, when things are really, really bad, throw from within and say, yes, it's happened. How do I stand up? I mean, there's the adage that we all know is that the real measurement of someone is how many times you fall, but more importantly, how many times do you get up? And getting up, you don't only need somebody to lift you up. There's a lot of it that's going to come from you when you say, it's happened. The other thing is that my sister used to tell me a story that her sister-in-law, whom they were not the greatest of buddies, but the sister-in-law used to say to my sister, my brother-in-law was the kind of guy that had not 3 or 4, but like 5 or 6 women at one time. So my sister would say, my sister's sister-in-law would say to her is that, sometimes you are walking in town and you feel down and you see this woman and you know that this woman is dating your husband. You can't afford to let her see you that you are depressed by the situation. You've got to bring it in, look up to her and walk tall. And as soon as she passes, you can say, oh. But when you face her, you've got to try and find the strength from within to carry you through, because you don't want the enemy to see you in a bad place. So a lot of it is going to come from within. But more importantly, surround yourself with people that you trust. People that whatever they say, you can believe. That is important. So the 3 questions. You spoke about challenging leaders, where you feel challenged with the leaders that you, pardon? That challenge your leadership. Yeah. So my attitude towards life is that it's not about you. So not everything is about you. So you've got subordinates that are challenging you from where you stand. The first thing that you should try and do, understand, where does this come from? What drives this? Can I show up differently to this person because they are driven by this, this, and that? But also, more importantly, is conversations. You've got to be able to look someone in the eye and say, look, I don't think this relationship is working. What is it that you want from me for this relationship to work? Because once you've done that, it gives you permission for you also to say, but okay, I hear you. You need me to do this for this to work, but I also need you to show up this way for the relationship to work. Because relationships are never one-sided. It's got to go both ways. So sometimes you look at someone and they are challenging you. Are you doing everything correctly? Are you doing the best that you can do? So take the opportunity to ask them, what is it that you want from me? Because that gives you the permission to say, now that you've told me, I will meet you this far, but I also want this from you to try and get to a relationship that works. Requests are a big challenge. There's a lot of people, but there's a lot of people out there that need support, that want your time. Firstly, you need to understand you can't say yes to everyone and everybody because you'll kill yourself. But also, more importantly, you will not be doing justice in terms of how you support the people that you are supporting if you are spreading yourself too wide. So you've got to be able to say no to some people, refer them somewhere else. Say, maybe this person will do a better job. However, in terms of who deserves the most, that's again from a conversation. You need to be able to measure, what does this person want? Am I good at this? Can I really give value to this person or not? But more importantly, don't overload yourself, because we also try to be nice. Being nice doesn't really pay anybody, because the person that you are supporting doesn't get full value, but also you killing yourself. The jobs that we do, the roles that we have, need a lot of you. So you can't then afford to really spend yourself doing other things, which are important, and spread yourself so widely that you can't do what people admire in you. So you're not delivering in that because you've taken this energy and you've done other things with it. You need this energy to be able to do stuff that people love about you. So preserve it. Your third question was dealer program, how do we? So if you go to our website, you go to the careers section. In the careers section, there is a icon there that says franchise opportunities. So you go there, you apply, we take you through the process. Yeah. So it's very easy. It's very easy and it's very simple. And it's a program that we are very, very proud of, and we're really making a lot of progress. This year alone, we've managed to appoint, no, not this year alone, in the last 18 months, we've managed to appoint 51 aspiring entrepreneurs that we've put into our program, and we are looking at placing them at service stations as we go along. So there was a question in terms of how in my journey I've dealt with failures and disappointments. Those are inevitable. You will get disappointed. There will be things that don't go right. Again, it is about that digging deep. That is about that finding within you in terms of how do you deal with it personally. But I think the important things about failure or things that disappoint you is to understand that it will happen. So when it happens, it's not the end of the world. When it happens, it's happening to you, it's happening with everybody else, but what is it that can change the situation? What is it that you can do that changes that situation that you see as a failure? Failure is not the end of the world. It is again about that notion of, I'm down, I need to get up. So find strength within yourself to make sure that you do get up. Don't let failure defeat you. Don't let failure defeat you. You have been successful. So don't measure yourself by that one failure. Measure yourself by the successes. I've had so many successes. So if there's a wobble, it's a wobble. We can fix it. But focus on what tomorrow holds. Face up to it. Disappointments will come. Life is not perfect. Okay. You asked about the books that I would recommend. My favorite books, they don't talk to oil and gas. There's just favorite books that I have read and sort of enjoyed. One of them is a book called Good to Great. It's a wonderful book. The concepts that are reflected there, it's concepts that really can help you to grow. The other book is a book by a guy called Malcolm Gladwell, Tipping Point. It's also a book that I've read and enjoyed. The other book, it's a bit of a thickish book by a gentleman called John Maxwell, and it is The 5 Levels of Leadership. Yeah. So those are books that really have spoken to me in the past. The other question that came through is that we're struggling to get opportunities. I think saying be patient is a difficult one, because how patient is patient, you know? So the one thing that I would recommend is don't be focused on looking for opportunities in one area. If those opportunities don't come, what is it that is different that I can look at that might give me the opportunity? I was talking to a young man who is desperately looking for a job. He is a marketing graduate, BCom marketing graduate. He's worked a little bit and things didn't go well. And he's just struggling now to get employment. So the question that I asked him is that, firstly, you are a BCom graduate. So have you thought about spending some time doing your honors degree, if you are able to? But also, have you considered looking at starting a business instead of just continuously looking for a marketing job? But also, what I would recommend is that don't just look at, if you're a marketing graduate, look for opportunities in the marketing space. What else can I do that is probably different to what I set out at the beginning wanting to do? Where are the openings? I mean, I shared with you that my dream was to be a civil engineer. I never got there, you know. But I said, what is it that is available? And that was available. I did it. It didn't take me to where I wanted to go, but it was a good stopgap at the time. And then eventually, I found my place and did what I was doing. I'm never going to be a civil engineer. So be it. But at least I found a home in what I'm doing today. So don't just look at one area. Look as widely as you can. Something will give. And don't give up easily. Your opportunity will come. So the gentleman at the back also said, what are we doing to cultivate the culture of entrepreneurship? I think it's something that is important, because there aren't enough companies to employ all of us. There aren't enough jobs to absorb all of us. So entrepreneurship is one area, because remember that if you start a business, you have the opportunity to create jobs. So it's no longer about the one job that you were looking for. Your gives opportunity to many more people that will come into that. So entrepreneurship is something that we encourage, is something that we are constantly looking, how can we make a contribution? Today, in the company that I work for, we had an amazing day where we were celebrating entrepreneurs that we've contributed to them kicking off their businesses. It was a humbling experience where we were in a room full of people. One lady stood up and said, When she started her business, she was a one-woman show. Today, her business has 17 people. So find people also that you can talk to and say, can we do this together to create opportunities to start businesses? Ask other people. We've got programs, and we're not the only company. We've got programs where we've got something that's called Livewire, which is a program that enables go to these programs with as many organizations that are out there to try find the opportunity to get your business started. The last question, which is a difficult question. What strategies do we have? Because we've got strategies to increase our profits. What strategies do we have to reduce prices? You know? Unfortunately, if you look at the particular area that you are talking about at the moment, is that it is a little bit beyond our control. It is something that the world economy drives. Because there's this organization called OPEC and other nations. They drive the price of crude because their nations depend on it. And they decide, you know, if a barrel of Brent crude, for instance, is at $60 per barrel, are we able to be able to pay our way out? Are we able to make our economy run? So if we are not able to, what is it that we can do? Can we meet with other nations that produce oil and decide we produce more oil or we produce less oil? And from less oil being available, the price decides where to go. So I hope I've answered you. So, and then the closing, my closing remarks. You know, firstly is thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much, Morris. Thank you. I really and truly appreciate the opportunity to be here. And thanks for everybody for taking the time out to come and listen to me. It is really a privilege to be able to do that. And one thing I spoke about earlier on today during lunchtime is that, unfortunately, as a nation, we are developing certain reputations. And some of the reputations that we are developing are not comfortable reputations. Reputations like we are beginning to be known as a corrupt country. So, and that reputation doesn't come on its own. It comes from the actions that we as individuals do. It comes from this greed that I spoke about earlier on, that people, we all want to be Patrice. We can't all be Patrice. Let's try and do business in a way and in a manner that is ethical. Have a business conversation that you can have in front of anybody. Don't have a conversation that if somebody finds out that you've had this conversation, you will be not such a good person or such a popular person. Leadership and ethical behavior is something that we are continuously eroding in our nation. And don't be one of those. And it is not about you or knowing that somebody else, it's about you as an individual. If we all as individuals commit to staying away from this, it will spread. And our reputation of being corrupt will start going south. So it is my plea to all of us that let's try and stand up for the good. Thank you very much.